The red lights flashed across the control room of the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Dr. Vexthal's 6 eyes widened as he stared at the impossible readings on his screen. His tentacles moved quickly over the controls, checking the data again and again. The numbers could not be real. "Computer, run full diagnostic on sensor array 7, he commanded in his deep voice. "Diagnostic complete. All systems functioning normally," the computer replied. Vexthal felt his heart racing. For 300 years he had studied the technology, patterns of developing worlds. Every species followed the same path. First came fire, then electricity, then basic space travel, and finally, after tens of thousands of years, quantum technology. It was the natural order of things. But the small blue planet called Earth was breaking every rule. The readings showed clear signs of quantum-fold communication. This was technology that should take at least 50,000 years to develop. Yet, according to their records, these humans had only discovered electricity 200 years ago. They barely had space stations. They still used primitive chemical rockets. Vexthal called his assistant, a young researcher named Kilnoxa. "Look at these readings and tell me what you see." Kilnoxa studied the data carefully. His expression changed from curiosity to confusion to complete shock. "Sir, this shows quantum entanglement communication. But that's impossible. The humans are still a Type 0 civilization." "That's what I thought too," Vexthal said. "But the readings are clear. Someone on that planet has achieved stable quantum communication." Meanwhile, on Earth, in a small underground laboratory beneath Sol, Taemin Park wiped sweat from his forehead. He had been working for 18 hours straight, but the excitement kept him awake. After 3 years of failures, his quantum communication device was finally working. "Jiwoo, come look at this," he called to his partner. "Jiwoo." Kim rushed over. From her computer station. She was a theoretical physicist while Taemin was an engineer. Together, they had been trying to solve the problem of instant communication across space. "The signal is holding steady," Taemin said, pointing at his screen. "We're getting clear data from the satellite beyond Pluto. The message is traveling instantly, no delay at all." Jiwoo stared at the readings. "This should be impossible according to everything we know about physics. But the data doesn't lie. What they didn't know was that their breakthrough was based on a simple mistake. 3 years ago, Taemin had misread a formula in a physics paper. Instead of following the standard approach to quantum mechanics, he had accidentally created something new, something that worked better than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The quantum field they had created was stable, efficient, and required very little power. Most importantly, it worked using materials that could be found on any planet. Taemin had built the entire system using modified computer parts and some rare earth metals. Back on the monitoring station, Vexthal was preparing an emergency report to the Galactic Science Consortium. This discovery would shock the entire galaxy. In all their millions of years of recorded history, no species had ever developed quantum technology this early. "Sir, should we inform the Council of First Contact?" Kilnoxa asked. "Yes, immediately," Vexthal replied. "This changes everything we know about technological development." The Galactic Science Consortium was located on Nexus Prime, a massive space station at the center of the galaxy. It was home to the greatest minds from thousands of different species. When they received Vexthal's report, the reaction was immediate. Dr. Yethsan, the head of Xenotechnology Studies, read the report 3 times before believing it. "This must be an error," she said to her colleagues. "No species develops quantum communication before achieving interstellar travel." "The readings have been verified," replied Dr. Mordun, an ancient being whose species had mastered quantum technology 50,000 years ago. "Either our entire understanding of technological progression is wrong, or these humans have found a completely different path." The synthesizer, an AI construct that had been observing galactic development for millions of years, spoke up. "Its voice filled the chamber. "In all my records, no species has deviated from the standard technological path. This is unprecedented." Dr. Yethsan made the decision quickly. "We need to investigate this immediately. Prepare the fastest scout ship. I want a team on their way to the Sol system within the day." On Earth, Taemin and Jiwoo were completely unaware that their breakthrough had been detected. They were busy, testing their system and documenting their results. The mathematics behind their solution was surprisingly simple, which puzzled them both. "The formulas are so basic," Jiwoo said, reviewing their work. "Any graduate student could understand this. Why hasn't anyone thought of this approach before?" "Maybe we're just looking at the problem differently," Taemin suggested. "Sometimes, the best solutions are the simplest ones." They decided to share their discovery with the international scientific community. Within hours of publishing their preliminary results online, physicists around the world were trying to replicate their experiment. Most succeeded on their first attempt. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT called it elegantly simple. Professor Boris Petrov in Moscow said it was the most beautiful solution to quantum entanglement he had ever seen. Scientists everywhere were amazed at how easy it was to build and operate. What none of them realized was that their simple solution was actually far more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever developed. They had accidentally discovered a method that was both more efficient and more stable than technologies that had taken other species tens of thousands of years to perfect. The scout ship Luminous Inquiry was the fastest vessel in the consortium fleet. Captain Zethmora received her orders personally from the High Council. She was to observe the humans secretly and report back on their quantum technology. "This mission is classified at the highest level," the council leader told her. "If these humans have truly developed quantum communication independently, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy."
Captain Zethmora selected her best crew for the mission. The ship could travel from Nexus Prime to the Sol system in just 3 months, using their fastest drive systems. It would give them time to study all available data about human civilization, The
Luminous Inquiry began its journey. Taemin and Jiwoo were making even more discoveries. Their quantum communication system was revealing new properties every day. They found they could not only send messages instantly across space, but also transmit complex data and even energy patterns. "This is bigger than we thought," Jiwoo said, during one of their late-night work sessions. "We're not just communicating through quantum entanglement, we're actually manipulating the fabric of space-time itself." Taemin nodded, though he didn't fully understand all the implications. "Should we contact the government? This seems like something they should know about." "Let's finish our documentation first," Jiwoo replied. "We need to understand exactly what we've created before we tell anyone else." Neither of them suspected that their discovery had already attracted attention from across the galaxy. The consortium's monitoring stations were tracking every test they performed. Each new experiment only confirmed what Dr. Vexthul had reported. Humanity had achieved the impossible. As the Luminous Inquiry traveled through space toward Earth, the scientific community on Nexus Prime was in chaos. Teams of researchers were trying to understand how a primitive species could develop technology that surpassed their own. Some believed it was impossible and demanded more proof. Others wondered if humanity had received help from an advanced civilization, but Dr. Morden, who had studied technological development longer than anyone, had a different theory. "What if," he suggested to his colleagues, "we've been approaching quantum mechanics the wrong way all along? What if these humans have found a better path?" The idea was revolutionary and frightening. It meant that everything the galaxy thought it knew about science and technology might be wrong. It meant that a species they had never heard of might be more advanced than civilizations that were millions of years old. On Earth, Taemin looked at his quantum communication device one more time before heading home. Tomorrow, he and Jiwoo would begin the next phase of their research. They had no idea that their work would soon bring them face to face with visitors from the stars, or that their simple discovery would change the fate of the entire galaxy. 3 months had passed since the Luminous Inquiry left Nexus Prime. Captain Zethmora sat in her command chair as her ship approached the outer edge of the Sol system. Her blue-scaled skin reflected the soft light from the control panels as she studied the data her crew had collected during their journey. "Captain, we're detecting multiple artificial satellites around the 4th planet," reported her science officer, Latin Veltara. The humans have spread their technology throughout their solar system faster than our models predicted. Zeth Mora nodded thoughtfully. Activate stealth systems. We'll observe them quietly before making contact. The stealth technology of the Luminous Inquiry was the best in the galaxy. It bent light and electromagnetic radiation around the ship, making it completely invisible to any known detection method. No primitive species had ever spotted a consortium scout ship. Stealth systems active, Captain, the tactical officer announced. We are now invisible to all sensor types. On Earth, in a heavily secured building in Seoul, Sujin Lee was monitoring her screens when something caught her attention. She was the head of the newly formed Quantum Communications Defense Initiative, a secret government program built around Taemin and Jiwoo's discovery. The quantum detection array that her team had built was showing an unusual reading. Something was disturbing the quantum field around Earth, something big. Jin-Ho, come look at this, she called to her assistant. We're getting some strange readings from the outer solar system. Jin-Ho Bei hurried over to her station. He was young but brilliant, one of the few people who fully understood how their quantum detection system worked. That signature doesn't match any known satellite or space debris, he said after studying the data. Sujin felt a chill run down her spine. Run a full analysis. I want to know what's out there. Unknown to them, they had just done something impossible. They had detected a fully cloaked alien spacecraft using technology that shouldn't exist. Aboard the Luminous Inquiry, alarms suddenly started blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Veltara stared at her instruments in disbelief. Captain, we're being scanned. Someone is detecting us through our stealth field. Captain Zeth Mora jumped to her feet. That's impossible. Our stealth technology has never been penetrated by a pre-contact species. The scans are coming from the third planet, from the area where we detected the strongest quantum signatures, Veltara reported. Zeth Mora made a quick decision. Take us out of stealth. If they can detect us anyway, there's no point in hiding. Prepare for first contact protocols. Back on Earth, Sujin watched as something huge suddenly appeared on her screens. The object was larger than any spacecraft humans had ever built, and it was clearly artificial. Contact the Defense Ministry immediately, she ordered, and get me a line to Dr. Park and Dr. Kim. We're going to need their expertise. Within an hour, a crisis team had assembled in the government's Secure Communications Center. Taemin and Jiwoo were rushed from their laboratory to join military officials and diplomats. Among them was Hyunwoo Choi, South Korea's top diplomat and expert in international relations. Dr. Park, Dr. Kim, Hyunwoo said as they entered the room, we need to understand exactly what your technology can do. We may be dealing with visitors from another world. Taemin looked confused. Our technology is just for communication. We're not equipped to deal with aliens. Actually, Jiwoo interrupted, studying the data on the screens. Our quantum field detection system could be modified to communicate with them. If they're using similar technology, we might be able to establish contact. Meanwhile, Captain Zeth Mora was preparing her own communication attempt. The consortium had standard first contact protocols that had been used successfully for thousands of years. She transmitted a basic mathematical sequence followed by images showing peaceful intentions. To her surprise, she received an immediate response. Not only did the humans reply with their own mathematical sequence, but they did so using quantum fold communication, the same technology that had brought the consortium to investigate them in the first place. Captain, Lieutenant Veltara said, their response time was instantaneous. They're using quantum communication for real-time contact. Zeth Mora was amazed. Most species took weeks or months to understand consortium communication protocols. The humans had responded in minutes and were using technology that most civilizations didn't develop for tens of thousands of years. The first actual conversation took place 6 hours later. Hyunwoo Choi spoke for humanity, while Captain Zeth Mora represented the Galactic Science Consortium. The translation was handled by AI systems on both sides. Greetings from the planet Earth, Hyunwoo said into the quantum communicator that Taemin had quickly modified for long-range contact. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization. Greetings, humans of Earth, Captain Zeth Mora replied. I am Captain Zethmora of the Galactic Science Consortium. We have come to your world because of reports of advanced quantum technology. We are very interested in speaking with your quantum technology creators. Hyunwoo looked at Taemin and Jiwoo, who were sitting nearby. The creators of our quantum technology are here with us. Dr. Park and Dr. Kim developed our communication systems. There was a long pause before Captain Zethmora replied. Your quantum technology creators? They developed this technology themselves, without outside assistance? Yes, Hyunwoo confirmed. Dr. Park and Dr. Kim created their quantum communication system in their private laboratory. It took them about 3 years to perfect. Another long pause. When Captain Zethmora spoke again, her voice sounded strained. 3 years? And they did this using only resources available on your planet? That's correct, Jiwoo said, speaking directly into the communicator. We used mostly standard electronic components and some rare earth metals. The mathematics are actually quite simple once you approach the problem from the right angle. Aboard the Luminous Inquiry, Captain Zethmora was having trouble believing what she was hearing. 3 years to develop quantum communication using primitive materials and simple mathematics? Her own species had taken 20,000 years to achieve the same breakthrough. Dr. Kim, she said carefully, would you be willing to share the mathematical principles behind your technology? For scientific purposes, of course. Jiwoo looked at Taemin and Hyunwoo. They nodded. Of course, she said. Science should be shared for the benefit of everyone. What followed was the most shocking conversation in galactic history. As Jiwoo explained the mathematical foundation of their quantum communication system, the alien scientists listening could hardly believe what they were hearing. The human approach was not just different from galactic standard methods. It was better. Where consortium technology required massive amounts of energy and exotic materials, the human method was elegant and efficient. Where galactic quantum systems were fragile and required constant maintenance, the human version was stable and self-correcting. Dr. Kim, Captain Zethmora said after Jiwoo finished her explanation, your mathematical approach to quantum field manipulation, has anyone else in your scientific community adopted these methods? Oh yes, Jiwoo replied. Once we published our results, scientists all over the world were able to replicate our experiments. Most of them succeeded on their first try. The mathematics really are quite straightforward. Captain Zethmora felt dizzy. An entire planet of beings who could master quantum technology on their first attempt? This was beyond anything in consortium records. Captain Zethmora, Hyunwoo said, we would very much like to learn about your civilization and the galaxy beyond our solar system. Would it be possible to arrange a more formal meeting? Zethmora knew she was facing a decision that would change galactic history. These humans had technology that could revolutionize everything the consortium thought it knew about science. They needed to be brought to Nexus Prime immediately. Dr. Park, Dr. Kim, Minister Choi, she said formally. On behalf of the Galactic Science Consortium, I invite you to visit our headquarters at Nexus Prime. Your discoveries have implications that reach far beyond your world. Taemin looked nervous. You want us to leave Earth? To travel to another star system? Our quantum communication technology can create a stable transport field, Captain Zethmora explained. You would be safely transported to our ship and then to Nexus Prime. The journey would take several weeks, but you would be our honored guests. Hyunwoo looked at his two scientists. The decision is yours, he said. But this could be the most important scientific exchange in human history. Taemin and Jiwoo looked at each other. They had started this project hoping to solve a simple communication problem. Now they were being invited to represent humanity to an entire galaxy of alien civilizations. We'll go, Jiwoo said finally. But we want to bring some of our equipment and data. If we're going to represent human science, we should do it properly. Of course, Captain Zethmora agreed. Bring whatever you need, the galaxy is very eager to meet you. As preparations began for humanity's first interstellar journey, neither the humans nor the aliens fully understood what they were setting in motion. The simple discovery made in a basement laboratory in Seoul was about to shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The journey to Nexus Prime took 3 weeks aboard the luminous Inquiry. Taemin spent most of his time staring out at the stars, still amazed that he was traveling faster than light. Jiwoo was busy studying the alien technology around them, asking Captain Zethmora endless questions about how their ship worked. Hyunwoo used the time to learn about galactic civilization. He discovered that the consortium included over 10,000 different species, some so ancient that they had been traveling between stars for millions of years. The thought was both exciting and intimidating. "Captain," Jiwoo said during one of their daily conversations, "your quantum drive system seems much more complex than it needs to be. Have you ever tried using gravitational wave manipulation to stabilize the quantum field?" Captain Zethmora looked puzzled. Gravitational wave manipulation? That's theoretical physics. No one has ever successfully used gravitational waves for practical applications. "Really?" Jiwoo seemed surprised. "We use it all the time in our quantum systems. It's actually quite simple once you understand the relationship between gravity and quantum fields." Once again, Captain Zethmora found herself amazed by these humans. They spoke about impossible physics as if it were basic science. When they finally arrived at Nexus Prime, Taemin gasped at the sight. The space station was enormous, larger than Earth's moon. Thousands of ships from hundreds of different species were docked at its ports. The structure itself seemed to blend advanced technology with artistic beauty. "Welcome to the center of galactic civilization," Captain Zethmora said proudly. The human delegation was escorted to the main science complex, where the greatest minds in the galaxy were waiting to meet them. Dr. Vexthol, who had first detected their quantum signals, was there along with hundreds of other scientists. But the being that impressed the humans most was the synthesizer, an artificial intelligence that had been studying galactic development for millions of years. It appeared as a shimmering column of light that could take any shape it chose. "Welcome, humans," the synthesizer said, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Your arrival has caused quite a stir in our scientific community." Dr. Yethsan, the head of xenotechnology studies, stepped forward. "Dr. Park, Dr. Kim, we are very eager to understand your quantum technology. According to our models, your species should not have been able to develop this for another 50,000 years. 50,000 years? Taemin looked shocked. But the mathematics are so simple. Any engineering student could build a basic quantum communicator with the right materials. A murmur went through the assembled scientists. Dr. Mordun, one of the oldest beings present, spoke up. "Young human, my species has been working on quantum technology for over 100,000 years. We have never found anything simple about it." Minji Han, a young mathematician who had joined the delegation at the last minute, stepped forward. She had been quiet during most of the journey, but now she looked excited. "May I see your quantum field equations?" she asked politely. Dr. Yethsan gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing the consortium's standard quantum mathematics. Minji studied the equations for several minutes, her expression growing more puzzled. "I think I see the problem," she said finally. "You're approaching quantum entanglement from the wrong direction. You're trying to force particles into specific states instead of letting them find their natural resonance." "Natural resonance?" Dr. Mordun asked. "What do you mean?" Minji looked around for something to demonstrate with. She picked up a small crystal from Dr. Yethsan's desk. "Watch this," she said, and began running calculations on her portable computer. Within minutes, she had created a small quantum field that made the crystal hover and glow. The assembled scientists stared in amazement. "How did you do that so quickly?" Dr. Vexthol asked. "That should require massive computational resources and exotic matter. Not if you work with quantum mechanics instead of against it," Minji explained. "The universe wants particles to be entangled. You just have to show them the right path." Dr. Seung-ho Nam, Earth's lead quantum theorist, joined the demonstration. He had brought several pieces of human quantum equipment with him. "Would you like to see our standard quantum communication setup?" he asked. When the humans began assembling their equipment, the alien scientists couldn't believe what they were seeing. The human device was small, simple, and made from materials that could be found on any inhabited planet. Yet when they activated it, It immediately connected with quantum networks across the galaxy. "This is impossible," Dr. Yethsan whispered. "Your device is establishing stable quantum links with systems that are thousands of light years away." "Actually," Xiong-Ho said, "distance doesn't matter much in quantum space. Once you establish proper entanglement, location becomes somewhat irrelevant." The synthesizer, who had been silent throughout the demonstration, suddenly spoke. "Humans, may I examine your mathematical framework in detail? I believe you may have discovered something that we have missed for millions of years." For the next several hours, the human scientists shared their knowledge with the galactic community. They showed how they approached quantum mechanics, how they solved field stability problems, and how they created exotic matter effects using simple gravitational manipulation. With each explanation, the alien scientists became more amazed and more confused. The human methods were not just different from their own, they were fundamentally superior in almost every way. "Dr. Kim," Dr. Morden said during a break in the presentations, "your gravitational wave manipulation technique. How long did it take your species to develop this?" "About 6 months, Jiwoo replied. "Once Taemin and I figured out the basic principles, it was just a matter of building the right equipment." Dr. Morden sat down heavily. His species had been trying to achieve practical gravitational wave manipulation for tens of thousands of years. The humans had done it in 6 months as a side project. Yejin, a materials scientist who had joined the delegation, was showing the aliens how humans created stable quantum fields using modified graphene structures. "We discovered that carbon lattices are naturally suited for quantum resonance," she explained. "You just have to arrange them in the right pattern." Dr. Vexthal examined the graphene samples carefully. "Carbon structures. We dismissed these as too simple centuries ago. We thought quantum fields required exotic matter." "Exotic matter is useful," Yejin agreed, "but it's not necessary for basic quantum operations. You can achieve most of the same effects using properly configured ordinary matter." The breakthrough moment came when Do-hyun Ryu, a young engineering student who had come along to help with equipment, accidentally solved one of the galaxy's oldest physics problems. The aliens had been struggling for 10,000 years with the question of how to stabilize quantum fields in high-gravity environments. Their best solutions required enormous amounts of energy and complex exotic matter constructions. Do-hyun was helping to set up a demonstration when he noticed that the alien equipment was having trouble with quantum field stability. "Oh, that's easy to fix," he said casually. "You just need to account for gravitational time dilation in your field equations." He made a few quick adjustments to their system using principles he had learned in his undergraduate physics classes. The result was immediate and dramatic. The alien quantum field became perfectly stable and required 90% less energy to maintain. The room fell completely silent. Dr. Morden stared at Do-hyun in amazement. "You just solved the high-gravity quantum stability problem. We've been working on that for 10,000 years. Do-hyun looked embarrassed. "Sorry, I didn't know it was a big problem. The solution seemed pretty obvious." The synthesizer spoke into the silence. "Citizens of the galaxy, what we are witnessing here is not just advanced technology. These humans have developed a fundamentally different approach to understanding the universe. Their methods are more intuitive, more efficient, and more powerful than our own." Dr. Yethsan nodded slowly. "The question is, how is this possible? How did a species that discovered electricity only 2 centuries ago develop quantum physics beyond our own understanding?" "Maybe," Jiwoo suggested, "it's because we approached the problems without knowing they were supposed to be difficult. We didn't have thousands of years of established methods to work around. We just looked at the physics and found the simplest solutions." The implications of this statement hit the assembled scientists like a shockwave. For millions of years, galactic civilization had built layer upon layer of complex technology. They had developed elaborate theories and massive engineering projects to solve problems that might have simpler solutions. "Are you suggesting," Dr. Morden asked slowly, "that our advanced age has actually hindered our scientific development?" "Not hindered," Taemin said diplomatically, "but maybe limited. When you have one way of doing things that works, it's hard to imagine that there might be a better way." The synthesizer processed this for several long moments. This changes everything, it finally announced. If the humans are correct, then we need to reconsider not just our technology, but our entire approach to scientific development. Dr. Yethsan looked around at her colleagues. I think, she said carefully, that we need to convene an emergency session of the full Galactic Science. The emergency session of the Galactic Science Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from over 5,000 species had gathered at Nexus Prime, either in person or through quantum communication links. The Great Assembly hall buzzed with hundreds of different languages as beings tried to understand what the humans had revealed. High Chancellor Morthek, an ancient being whose species had helped found the consortium millions of years ago, called the session to order. His voice carried the weight of eons as he addressed the assembly. Fellow beings of the galaxy, he began, we are here to discuss discoveries that challenge the very foundation of our scientific understanding. The humans of Earth have demonstrated technology that should not exist according to our established models of development. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Many of the representatives had heard rumors, but few understood the full scope of what had happened. Taemin, Jiwoo, and their team sat in a special section reserved for honored guests. They felt small and nervous, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that it was hard to tell which end was their head. Dr. Kim, High Chancellor Morthek said, would you please explain to the assembly how your species developed quantum communication technology? Jiwoo stood up, still amazed that she was addressing the representatives of galactic civilization. Thank you, High Chancellor. Our approach began with a simple observation. We noticed that quantum particles seemed to want to be connected. Instead of forcing them into specific states, we decided to work with their natural tendencies. She activated a holographic display showing the human mathematical framework. Our calculations are based on the idea that quantum entanglement is the natural state of particles. We don't create entanglement, we simply reveal it. A representative from the Crystalline Collective, a species made of living minerals, spoke up. Dr. Kim, are you saying that all particles in the universe are already connected? In a sense, yes, Jiwoo replied. We believe that quantum entanglement is a fundamental property of reality. Particles aren't separate things that become connected. They're parts of a larger whole that appears separate. The assembly erupted in discussion. This was not just a different technology. It was a completely different way of understanding the universe. Dr. Harmonizer Prime, the consortium's greatest physicist, requested permission to speak. The crystalline being's voice resonated through the chamber like music. Dr. Kim, if your theory is correct, then most of our quantum technology is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. Not a misunderstanding, Jiwoo said diplomatically. Just a different perspective. Your methods work, but they require more energy and resources because you're working against the natural flow of quantum mechanics instead of with it. Yejin. Oh stood up to join the demonstration. May I show you how this applies to practical technology? She asked. With permission from the High Chancellor, Yejin began setting up a small device she had brought from Earth. It looked impossibly simple compared to the massive consortium quantum systems. This is a quantum field generator, she explained. It's made primarily from carbon nanotubes arranged in a specific pattern. The carbon naturally resonates with quantum fields, so we don't need exotic matter or massive energy sources. She activated the device, and a soft blue glow surrounded it. Sensors throughout the assembly hall began detecting quantum field activity that matched the output of systems 1,000 times larger. How much power does that require? Asked a representative from the Metallic Federation. About as much as a small household appliance on Earth, Yejin replied. The carbon lattice channels and amplifies the natural quantum resonance. The silence in the assembly hall was profound. Beings who had spent thousands of years developing quantum technology stared at a device the size of a briefcase that outperformed their greatest achievements. Do-hyun Ryu, who had been quietly working on his tablet, looked up nervously. Excuse me, he said in a small voice. I've been analyzing the consortium's quantum drive systems during this meeting. I think there might be a way to make them much more efficient. High Chancellor Morthek gestured for him to continue. Your ships use forced quantum tunneling to move through space, Do-hyun explained. But if you added gravitational wave modulation to your field generators, you could reduce energy consumption by about 95% and increase speed by a factor of 10. The representatives from the spacefaring species looked shocked. Captain Zethmora, who was attending the session, spoke up. That's impossible. Our drive systems are the result of millions of years of development. I don't think they're wrong, Do-hyun said politely. I think they could just be improved. Would you like me to show you the calculations? For the next hour, the young engineering student presented modifications to galactic technology that seemed to solve problems that had puzzled scientists for millennia. Each solution was elegant, simple, and obvious once explained. Dr. Shung Ho Nam addressed the growing amazement in the assembly. I think the key difference in our approach is that we don't see quantum mechanics as something to be conquered or controlled. We see it as something to be understood and worked with, like a dance partner instead of an opponent, added Minji Han. The synthesizer, who had been analyzing everything the humans said, spoke up. Fellow beings, I have been processing the human approach to quantum mechanics. Their methods are not just more efficient, they suggest that reality itself operates differently than we have assumed. What do you mean? Asked High Chancellor Morthek. The humans treat quantum entanglement as the fundamental property of the universe, the synthesizer explained. Everything else, matter, energy, space, time, are emergent properties of quantum relationships. This perspective makes their technology possible. A representative from the Energy Beings Coalition, creatures of pure electromagnetic force, flickered with excitement. If this is true, then consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon. We could be looking at the key to understanding awareness across all species. The implications hit the assembly like a wave. If the humans were right, then quantum mechanics wasn't just about technology, it was about the nature of existence itself. Dr. Park, High Chancellor Morthek said, when your species developed this understanding, did you realize its philosophical implications? Taemin looked embarrassed. Honestly, we were just trying to build a better communication system. We didn't think about philosophy. We just noticed that particles seemed to work better when we treated them as connected rather than separate. Sometimes, said a wise old representative from the archive worlds, the most profound truths come from the simplest observations. The session continued for several more hours as human scientists demonstrated solution after solution to long-standing galactic problems. They showed how to create stable wormholes using quantum resonance, how to generate unlimited clean energy by tapping into quantum field fluctuations, and how to heal living tissue by correcting quantum errors in cellular structures. Each demonstration was met with amazement and disbelief. Technologies that had been theoretical for millions of years were being made real using materials and methods available to any developing civilization. The question before us, High Chancellor, Morthek finally said, is what we do with this knowledge. The human approach to science could revolutionize every aspect of galactic civilization. Dr. Yethsan stood up. I propose that we establish a new research initiative combining human intuitive methods with our computational resources and material sciences. Together we might achieve things that neither of us could accomplish alone. The proposal was met with enthusiasm from most of the assembly, but not everyone was pleased with the developments. Ambassador Krelnoth of the Hierarchical Order requested permission to speak. His species was one of the oldest in the galaxy, and they had ruled vast sections of space for millions of years. High Chancellor, he said in a cold voice, we must be careful not to let enthusiasm override wisdom. These humans are a very young species. Their methods may seem impressive now, but they lack the time-tested reliability of our established technologies. Are you suggesting we ignore discoveries that could benefit all galactic civilization? Asked Dr. Harmonizer Prime. I'm suggesting we proceed cautiously, Ambassador Krelnoth replied. The current order of things has maintained peace and stability for millions of years. Rapid technological change could upset that balance. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some beings nodded in agreement, while others looked troubled by the ambassador's words. Hyunwoo Choi, who had been quietly observing the political undercurrents, stood up. Ambassador Krelnoth, with respect, we're not trying to upset any balance. We simply want to share knowledge that could help everyone. And that's exactly what makes your species dangerous, Ambassador Krelnoth said bluntly. You develop in decades what takes us millennia. You solve problems we've struggled with for millions of years. You threaten the natural order of technological progression. The assembly fell silent. The political implications of the human discoveries were becoming clear. If young civilizations could develop advanced technology quickly using human methods, it could change the power structure of the entire galaxy. High Chancellor Morthek spoke carefully. News of humanity's quantum breakthrough spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within weeks of the Galactic Science Council meeting, thousands of species were attempting to replicate human methods. The results were both amazing and troubling. On the research world of Kepler 442b, a team of aquatic researchers successfully modified their underwater quantum computers using human carbon lattice principles. Their computational power increased by 500% overnight. On the desert planet Xerion, the silicon-based collective discovered that human gravitational wave techniques could help them communicate across their planet's massive sandstorms for the first time in their history. But the most dramatic changes were happening among younger civilizations that had been struggling to develop advanced technology. The Botanical Federation, a species of intelligent plants, had been trying to develop space travel for over 1,000 years. Using human quantum methods, they achieved their first interstellar flight in just 6 months. Back on Nexus Prime, Dr. Yethsan was coordinating the largest scientific collaboration in galactic history. Teams from hundreds of species were working together to understand and implement human quantum techniques. The results are incredible, she reported to the emergency council session that had been called to discuss the rapid changes. We're seeing technological advancement at rates we've never observed before. Jae-won Kim, a systems engineer who had joined the human team, was working with alien scientists to retrofit existing galactic technology. The Luminous Inquiry had become a test platform for these improvements. When Captain Zethmora activated the modified quantum drive system, her ship could travel 10 times faster than before while using 1/10 of the energy. It's like having a completely new ship, she told the council. Our travel time to the outer rim has been reduced from months to weeks. But not everyone was celebrating these advances. In the private chambers of the hierarchical order, Ambassador Krelnoth was meeting with representatives from the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. The situation is getting out of control, he told the assembled leaders. Young species that were supposed to take tens of thousands of years to develop advanced technology are now achieving it in decades. Our entire system of galactic governance is based on technological superiority. If that advantage disappears, so does our authority. Supreme Archon Velnarok, leader of the Order, listened carefully. His species had ruled their section of the galaxy for over 10 million years. What do you propose we do? The knowledge is already spreading. We need to contain it, Ambassador Krelnoth replied. The humans are the source. If we can isolate Earth and prevent them from sharing more of their methods, we might be able to control the damage. And how do you suggest we do that without appearing to be oppressors? Asked General Mordek of the warrior caste. We declare them a protected species, Ambassador Krelnoth said with a cold smile. We quarantine their system for their own safety. We tell the galaxy that rapid technological development is dangerous for primitive species and that we're protecting them from themselves. Meanwhile, on Earth, So-Young Park had been appointed as humanity's chief science ambassador to the galaxy. She was coordinating with teams of scientists around the world who were making new discoveries every day. Dr. Park called her assistant Dong-Hyun Lee as he rushed into her office. We're getting reports from Nexus Prime that some species are developing technologies we haven't even thought of yet. So-Young looked at the data streaming in from across the galaxy. They're taking our basic principles and finding applications we never imagined. This is exactly what scientific collaboration should be. But their excitement was interrupted by an urgent message from Captain Zethmora. Dr. Park, we've received intelligence that the hierarchical order is planning to take action against Earth. They see your species as a threat to galactic stability. So Young felt a chill. What kind of action? Quarantine, Captain Zethmora replied. They want to isolate your solar system and prevent you from sharing any more technological advances. The news reached the human delegation on Nexus Prime within hours. Taiman, Jiwoo, and their team gathered in their quarters to discuss the situation. This is insane, Do-hyun said angrily. We're trying to help everyone, and they want to imprison our entire planet? It's not insane from their perspective, Hyunwoo said sadly. We've accidentally upset a power structure that has existed for millions of years. The older civilizations see us as a threat to their authority. So what do we do? Asked Minji. Do we stop sharing our discoveries? That's not an option, Jiwoo said firmly. Knowledge belongs to everyone. We can't let fear stop scientific progress. Their discussion was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. The synthesizer materialized in their room, its form shifting and shimmering. Humans, it said, I have a proposal for you. We're listening, Taemin replied. The hierarchical order plans to move against Earth within the next few days, the synthesizer explained. But what if I told you that your quantum principles could create a communication network that could connect every peaceful species in the galaxy? A network that could not be blocked or controlled by any single authority? The humans looked at each other with growing excitement and concern. You're talking about a galactic internet, Yejin said. A quantum communication system that spans the entire galaxy. Exactly, the synthesizer replied. Such a network would make it impossible for any single group to control the flow of information or technology. It would democratize knowledge across the galaxy. But building something like that would require enormous resources, Seung-ho pointed out. Not with human methods, the synthesizer said. Your quantum techniques make it possible to create a self-sustaining network using quantum entanglement. Once established, it would maintain itself indefinitely. Changmin Lee, who had been quietly working on quantum engineering problems, looked up from his tablet. Actually, I think I know how to do this. We could use a cascading entanglement effect. Each new connection would strengthen the entire network. Show me, the synthesizer said. For the next several hours, Changmin worked with the synthesizer to design a galactic quantum communication network. The mathematics were complex, but the underlying principles were based on the simple human approach to quantum mechanics. This is brilliant, the synthesizer said when they finished. With this network, every species in the galaxy could share knowledge instantly. Scientific discoveries could be distributed to everyone simultaneously. But wouldn't that make the technological disparity problem even worse? Asked Hyunwoo. On the contrary, the synthesizer replied. If everyone has access to the same knowledge, then advancement becomes a matter of application and creativity rather than technological advantage. It levels the playing field. Meanwhile, the hierarchical order was preparing their move against Earth. A massive fleet of ships was gathering at the edge of human space, ready to establish a quarantine zone around the solar system. The fleet is in position, reported Admiral Thexkar to Ambassador Krelnoth. We can begin the quarantine operation within hours. Excellent, the ambassador replied. Once Earth is isolated, we can begin damage control. We'll tell the galaxy that the humans requested protection from outside interference while they develop their technology more carefully. But the order had underestimated both human ingenuity and the growing support for humanity among other species. Dr. Yethsan called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Science Council. Fellow beings, she announced, we have received word that the hierarchical order plans to quarantine the human homeworld. This action would halt one of the most important scientific collaborations in galactic history. The order claims they are protecting the humans, said Dr. Harmonizer Prime. But we all know they are really protecting their own power. What can we do? Asked a representative from the Botanical Federation. The order has the largest military force in the galaxy. We can make quarantine irrelevant, Dr. Yethsan replied. The humans have developed a way to create an unbreakable galactic communication network. If we implement it before the quarantine begins, the order won't be able to stop the flow of knowledge. The proposal sparked intense debate. Many species supported the idea, but others worried about defying the hierarchical order. The order had maintained galactic peace for millions of years, even if that peace came at the cost of stagnation. As the debate raged on Nexus Prime, the human team was making final preparations for their quantum network. They had been joined by volunteers from dozens of species, all working together to deploy the system before the order could stop them. "Are you sure this will work?" Captain Zethmora asked, as she prepared her ship to carry the first network nodes to strategic points across the galaxy. "The mathematics are sound," Changmin replied. "Once we establish the first few connections, the network will grow automatically. Every quantum communication device in the galaxy will become a potential node." "And if the order tries to destroy the nodes?" she asked. "They can't," Jiwoo said with a smile. "That's the beauty of quantum entanglement. The network exists in quantum space, not physical space. You can destroy the devices, but the connections themselves are indestructible." As Captain Zethmora's ship departed Nexus Prime, carrying the first quantum network, the hierarchical order's fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, just as the first quantum network nodes were being activated across the galaxy. Admiral Thexkar commanded over 1,000 warships, the largest force assembled in recent galactic history. His orders were simple: establish a complete blockade around Earth and prevent any communication or travel to or from the human homeworld. "Begin quarantine operations," the Admiral commanded. "No ships enter or leave this system." But even as the massive alien fleet spread out across the solar system, something unprecedented was happening throughout the galaxy. The quantum communication network that Changmin Li had designed was coming online, and it was spreading faster than anyone had expected. On Nexus Prime, the synthesizer monitored the network's growth with amazement. "The cascading effect is working perfectly," it announced to the assembled scientists. "Each new connection strengthens the entire system. We now have quantum links to over 3,000 star systems, and the number is growing exponentially." Dr. Yethsan watched the holographic display showing the network's expansion. "It's beautiful," she said. "For the first time in galactic history, every peaceful species can communicate instantly with every other." Back on Earth, So-Young Park was coordinating humanity's response to the quarantine. "Admiral Thexkar," she transmitted to the alien fleet. "Earth respectfully requests to know the reason for this military action." "By order of the hierarchical order," the Admiral replied, "your planet is being placed under protective quarantine. Your rapid technological development poses a danger to galactic stability. This action is for your own protection." "We did not request protection," So-Young responded firmly. "We request that you withdraw your forces immediately." "That is not possible," Admiral Thexkar said. "The quarantine will remain in effect until the order determines that your species is ready for unrestricted contact with galactic civilization." What the Admiral didn't know was that the quarantine was already meaningless. Thanks to the quantum network, Earth was more connected to the galaxy than ever before. Thousands of species were now in direct communication with human scientists, sharing knowledge and collaborating on projects in real time. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Captain Zethmora was deploying the final network nodes with help from volunteers from dozens of species. "Network completion at 99.7%, she reported. "The last few nodes are coming online now." The moment the network reached full activation, something unexpected happened. Changmin's design had included a feature he hadn't fully explained. The network was self-expanding. Every quantum device in the galaxy automatically became a potential connection point. On the ancient world of Hierarchy Prime, Ambassador Krelnoth was meeting with Supreme Archon Velnarok when their private quantum communicators suddenly lit up with connection requests from across the galaxy. "What is this?" the Supreme Archon demanded. "It appears the humans have created some kind of galactic communication system," Ambassador Krelnoth said, his voice filled with dread. "Our entire network has been integrated." Across the galaxy, the same thing was happening. Species that had been isolated for millennia were suddenly in contact with thousands of others. Young civilizations were connecting directly with ancient ones. Information and ideas began flowing freely for the first time in galactic history. But the most dramatic change was yet to come. In-ho Kang, who had been working quietly on a theoretical project, made an announcement that shocked even his fellow humans. "I've been experimenting with quantum consciousness bridging," he told the team on Nexus Prime. "I think I've found a way to allow different species to temporarily share thought processes." "Share thoughts?" Taemin asked. "How is that possible?" "Consciousness appears to have quantum properties," In-ho explained. "If we can create a stable quantum link between neural networks, beings from different species should be able to understand each other on a fundamental level." The implications were staggering. If In-ho was right, the communication barriers between species could be eliminated entirely. "We need to test this," Dr. Yethsan said, "but safely. We don't want to damage anyone's mind." The first test was conducted between In-ho and Dr. Harmonizer Prime, the crystalline physicist. The two beings could not have been more different. One a biological human, the other a living crystal formation. But when In-ho activated his quantum consciousness bridge, something amazing happened. For a brief moment, In-ho experienced reality as Dr. Harmonizer Prime did, seeing the universe as patterns of energy and vibration, feeling the harmony that connected all things. At the same time, Dr. Harmonizer Prime experienced human emotion and intuition, understanding for the first time what it meant to feel, rather than simply calculate. "This is incredible," Dr. Harmonizer Prime said after the connection ended. "I experienced empathy. I felt what you feel when you look at the stars, and I understood mathematics as music," In-ho replied, tears in his eyes. "I could hear the equations singing." Word of the consciousness bridge spread through the quantum network instantly. Representatives from hundreds of species requested to experience it. Within hours, beings who had been enemies for millennia were sharing thoughts and discovering that their conflicts were based on misunderstandings. The effect on galactic politics was immediate and revolutionary. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. But this time, instead of speeches and negotiations, representatives used In-ho's consciousness bridge to communicate directly. For the first time, the warrior caste understood the peaceful intentions of the Botanical Federation. The energy beings realized that their actions, which they saw as beautiful light displays, were actually causing pain to photosensitive species. Ancient grudges dissolved as beings experienced their conflicts from their enemies' perspectives. Even Ambassador Krelnoth was affected. When he reluctantly participated in a consciousness bridge session with a young representative from a recently contacted species, he experienced the wonder and excitement of discovery through fresh eyes. For the first time in millennia, he remembered what it felt like to learn something new. "This changes everything," he admitted to Supreme Archon Velnarok. "We can't maintain our authority when everyone can understand everyone else's point of view." The Supreme Archon himself had undergone the consciousness bridge experience with Dr. Yoonji Song, a human researcher, who had joined the effort to study its effects. Through her eyes, he had seen the joy that came from sharing knowledge rather than hoarding it. "Perhaps," the Supreme Archon said slowly, "it is time for the hierarchical order to evolve as well." The decision to end the quarantine came within days. Admiral Thexkar received new orders directly from Hierarchy Prime: withdraw all forces and establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. The quarantine was a mistake, the Admiral announced to his fleet. The humans represent an opportunity for growth, not a threat to stability. But the changes were far from over. Dr. Yoonji Song, working with scientists from across the galaxy, announced the formation of the new Galactic Research Collaborative. Unlike the old consortium, which had been dominated by ancient species, the new organization was based on the principle that knowledge belonged to everyone. Every species, regardless of age or technological level, has something unique to contribute, Dr. Yoonji explained at the founding ceremony. Young civilizations bring fresh perspectives, while ancient ones provide wisdom and experience. Together we can achieve things none of us could accomplish alone. The first major project of the collaborative was to establish research stations throughout the galaxy where beings from different species could work together in person. The quantum network made communication instant, but physical collaboration offered even greater possibilities. Taemin Park, the engineer whose simple communication experiment had started everything, found himself appointed as the first director of applied research for the collaborative. "This is not what I expected when I started working in my basement laboratory," he told Jiwoo with a laugh. "Did you ever imagine we would change the entire galaxy?" she replied. "I just wanted to talk to our satellite without delay," Taemin said. "I never thought about talking to the whole universe." But the universe was indeed listening. As the quantum network reached its full potential, it began detecting signals from beyond the galaxy itself. Other galaxies, it seemed, had been trying to establish contact for millions of years. Humanity's quantum breakthrough had finally provided the key to receiving their messages. The first message from outside the galaxy came from a collective of species in Andromeda. They had been watching the Milky Way for eons, waiting for its civilizations to develop the quantum consciousness technology necessary for meaningful communication between galaxies. "Greetings, young minds of the spiral galaxy," their message began. "We have waited long for you to discover the harmony that connects all consciousness. Welcome to the greater community of aware beings." The implications were overwhelming. The E2 era galaxy was not alone. Consciousness, it seemed, was a universal phenomenon, and quantum mechanics was the language that connected all thinking beings across the cosmos. As news of intergalactic contact spread through the quantum network, species throughout the galaxy reacted with wonder and excitement. The universe was far larger,